The film was initially an adaptation of a horror comic named Rex Havoc, where the monster hunter named Rex take on ghosts, ghouls, etc. with his team. This was drafted at around 2002, and the synopsis that was revealed in 2005 consisted of the crew fighting against aliens for disrupting their TV service. Of course, things changed, and the story was eventually scrapped and redone to the story we know now. Production claimed that the film was a return to those 1950s, 60s, and 70s sci-fi/horror movies, which made all of them nerds in the first place, quote unquote. So they satirized and personified a lot of the aspects in regards to the characters and settings. Susan represents the attack of the 50-foot woman, Cockroach represents the fly and Frankenstein, while Bob is reminiscent of the Blob and the crawling eye. It reportedly took 45.6 million computer hours to make the film, which is 8 times as much as Shrek almost a decade prior. A bunch of workstations, rendering programs, and terabytes were created to achieve the animation of this film. The movie starts with our protagonist named Susan getting ready for her wedding to a news reporter while she herself is a housewife. Excited to go to Paris, she is told by her fiancé Derek that they're going to Fresno instead of Paris because he has a work opportunity, which shows us that he's selfish and a bit vain. The inciting incident is when she is shortly hit by a meteor and starts glowing when she is at the chapel to get married. Glowing then turns into growing 50 feet tall, which causes everyone to fear her, and then has the government snatch her up. Now being in the government facility, she meets all of the other monsters that she will be a part of a team with, and is getting used to her fate. The lock-in is the government telling her about why she is there, which is to fight the government enemies and the aliens with the other monsters from their team, and that she will be separated from her life forever. Act 2 starts with some robot/alien arriving to Earth in order to destroy it, which causes the government to finally release the monsters from their sequester for 50 odd years to handle it. Keep in mind that they have absolutely no training or realization as to this being their sole purpose. While they are going at it in San Francisco, specifically the Golden Gate Bridge, the alien in the robot named Galaxar, whatever, recognizes her as having this substance called quantonium within her, which is the main reason as to why he is on Earth. Of course, the monsters win their first task, and they feel good about themselves. This is the midpoint. The crew decide to visit Susan's family in San Francisco, who have no idea how to interact with the monsters and are kind of creeped out. She decides to visit her fiancé, who got the job in Fresno, and is crushed when he dumps her due to her predicament. This was apparently the incident where she realizes that he's a selfish jerk. The signs were always there, but she didn't care. Whatever. Act 2 comes to an end when Susan is abducted to Galaxar's spaceship, who tells her that he plans to destroy the world and to receive all the quantonium that he can get. He sucks it out of her, and then she comes to some realization or belief that she is nothing without it. We know where the plot and this arc is going from here. Act 3 constitutes of the other monsters following the spaceship and breaking in to save Susan, and they all have to fight Galaxar's aliens together. Galaxar decides to set a self-destruction button for the spaceship, and Susan manages to follow Galaxar despite the other monsters telling her to go back to her old life, as this is her final chance. The two battle it out for a little, and she finally has enough confidence to defeat him, as she got her calling that being a monster is what she is going to be, so she manages to recapture the quantonium and easily saves her fellow allies, while Galaxar blows up with the spaceship. Susan's family and neighborhood celebrate and praise them, while the fiancé Derek comes back to try and get back with her, due to her newfound glory, but she of course rejects him. Another task is given to the monsters, so they fly off, which might have been to prepare for a sequel that never came to be due to the film's underperformance. To start with the pros, one of the main pros in my eyes is that the tone of the film was very good. When they wanted to get emotional and sentimental, the mood is transitioned well, and the tone is executed very well. It gives a slower feeling towards the movie, and made it come off as a lot more authentic. Susan is a pretty good character, and it's nice to see the story of a simple, housewife-like girl want to fulfill more in her life and to gain more confidence in herself to become whatever she wants to be. I tend to forget that this is the only movie in DreamWorks' canon to star a female protagonist, and I would have to say that this is a pretty good start to that trajectory. The animation for the most part is very nice. The monsters and aliens have brilliant designs, and the special effects are magnificent. You can definitely tell that they upgraded a lot of their computer programs and software for this film, because there's no way they could have done all of this with their previous films. You can definitely tell that the animators and the other people behind this film were really coming into their own and felt very good while making this film, and it shows in the work. It's weird because a lot of the pros tie to the cons as well. While Susan herself is a good character, her supporting cast is very weak and forgettable, which is ironic because I felt like they're all likable when I watched this film in the past. None of them are really developed or that memorable, as they are only used to spew up horrible joke after a horrible joke, which leads to our next flaw. If they just focused more on the spoofing aspect in relation to the sci-fi theme, and utilized it into the humor more, then it would have worked out. What they did was add as much party/trashy lowbrow humor as they could, thinking it was the only way to get people's reaction in a laughable manner. A lot of it didn't even make sense and stalled the film. While the story is good in itself, it could have been developed a bit more. The team should have been developed more in regarding to their interactions and their growth as a union, and we should have seen them gone through more adventures leading up to the climax, but we only have one battle, and then the climax happens afterwards. Everything about it is very simplistic. When the movie was released on March 27, 2009, it ended up making $198 million domestically and $183 million in other territories, adding to a worldwide amount of $381 million. It was the third highest grossing animated film of the year, behind Up and Ice Age: Dawn of the Dinosaurs. It underperformed because there was not enough to greenlight a sequel in theaters. Despite this, Monsters vs. Aliens was used to be DreamWorks' first venture into television, and they turned it into a TV series that continued after the events of the movie. The show aired on Nickelodeon before it was cancelled after one season, but it was the start of their films becoming television series, which would increase exponentially in this era. Critically, the film received lukewarm reviews and was mostly overshadowed in regards to the accolades by Up, The Princess and the Frog, and Coraline. It just seemed like people forgot about this film and just saw it as another mediocre DreamWorks film. Monsters vs. Aliens definitely seems like a small irrelevant film in the DreamWorks canon, but it is actually pretty important. I have already mentioned that it's the first film to have a female protagonist. They only have one more after this one, and the huge contribution of television being added to another aspect of DreamWorks franchises, which is still very popular to this date. It also gave the company hope, since a lot of them went back to their roots in their career and interest in animation for this project. Ultimately, I do feel like as a film, it is simplistic enough to the point that it works, but they could have added more depth to it in order for this film to be one of DreamWorks' best. Even Susan's storyline is very simple, but sometimes simple is effective. But also, because of this, it will never be one of those films that people will instantly remember. In fact, a lot of people see Monsters vs. Aliens as one of DreamWorks' worst for this very reason, as to them it reaffirmed everything they dislike about DreamWorks and their films. Now it's time to talk about 2009 and the end of the decade in general. Animated film was changing in the fact that there are a lot more animation companies coming up in the works to make some of the profit as well. Not only this, but companies that were not doing well prior started a resurgence in quality and eventual box office success, mainly Disney. The 2000s was mostly Disney, Pixar, Blue Sky, and DreamWorks, but things will certainly change for better or for worse. At this point, DreamWorks was the second most dominant animation company of the decade, and with things changing going into the 2010s, they would have to fight even harder in order to maintain their fandom, success, and momentum in the animation industry and pop culture. Luckily for DreamWorks, one of their biggest and most successful films and franchise as a whole was right around the corner and under their nose with the new decade, and they already had 3 franchises under their belt to strengthen their place in the animation industry. Despite this film not really having the positive impact that the company may have wanted, as sequels, things were still looking up for them. This film was the one that gave the animators, producers, etc. enough confidence to strengthen and play with their creativity for their future films, and to go back to what made them want to enter this business in the first place. Kind of like what The Great Mouse Detective did for Disney a few decades prior.